Welcome to Tiny Hands, Big Dreams here in southern Ecuador. So, if you're watching this, you might be interested in buying a property here in Ecuador, and you might have no idea how to do that. We didn't. It's not like the US. There are no MLS listings, there's no, Zillow and Trulia, and we've all been on those sites. It is nothing like that here. There are some real estate companies here. They tend to be very local in their listings to a specific area. They're also typically catering towards foreigners.
Yeah, they're very limited, especially the ones you find in English. Remember, this isn't an English-speaking country, so if the listings are all in English, that's who it's marketed towards.
Yep, and the prices may be that of what foreigners may be willing to spend. It's just a rate. We're going to try to kind of give you an idea of how you might go about actually finding a property here, which, just to give you a little bit of perspective, we are in the Orient, which is the eastern side of the Andes, going towards the Amazon jungle. So it's kind of where we are, typically regarded as one of, if not the safest part of the country.
Yep.
We're very rural.
Safest from crime, safest from the narco violence that they talk about at the two borders of the country, safe from natural disasters. Yep. It's kind of a sweet spot, and you can grow food.
Yep. So that's kind of our perspective, where we're at, which kind of leads us into figuring out where you want to be.
Yeah, you are the most important thing. What do you want? Now, we have a friend, and he really wants the top of a mountain. He's older. He likes the crisp, cool air. He doesn't like the bugs. He doesn't like warmth. He doesn't really want to grow things. That's not important. He wants top of the mountain, the crisp, cool air, the lovely views. Okay, be able to take walks up there. The less dense foliage. That's great for him. That didn't work for us. So everybody is different. Decide what you want. Now, Ecuador is incredibly diverse in its microclimates. Do you want hot and steamy jungle? That's that way. Do you want desert? That way and that way. Do you want high alpine foresty things? There's some over there and some like that way. Do you want somewhere in between?
And the microclimates are so incredibly small that our property will have different weather than right down the road.
We watch it rains here all the time, half a kilometer down valley. Doesn't rain. Happens a lot. It just rolls off the mountains and creates one certain microclimate. There's some lovely properties that people have told us about that are for sale 15 minutes from here. It's sunny like most of the time. Just gorgeous. So you have to know what you're looking for, and this is really the most important part. And then you also get into the altitude is temperature. Mm-hmm. We're 1,000 meters-ish is our altitude. We really wanted 1,400, just slightly cooler. It's more comfortable for us. That's kind of what we wanted. But we found this property, and we're like, well, we can't have everything perfect, right? So we were going to be okay. But the higher the altitude, just in general, cooler the temperatures. You go lower, you're just getting warmer. We're on the equator, so that's part of how you pick you pick your environment.
Pick your general area of the country.
Do you want lots of water? Do you want water to be plentiful and free, or do you want water to be a very commodity shared resource that you might have to do paperwork for, fight for, or pay for? Yeah. And those also exist.
And a lot of that is you just need to drive around. There's really no way out of that. This is not going to be something where I think you'd be super successful buying a property sight unseen. We have done that in other places. This country might be harder. It's just so diverse, so many different little pieces of the puzzle that I think would be super hard to kind of put together elsewhere. Yeah, I guess
you can get a general idea by asking people who are knowledgeable about the country about, like, well, I'm looking for this kind of place, or try here, and that'll get you a direction. You're just going to spend time going and being there and looking around and seeing what it's like.
Yep.
And the more time is the more clues and experience you get. And there's some places we were looking at, some property. I think we visited one 6 times.
And the last time was the one where we're like, well, this is maybe not the right option.
The last time it showed some sudden problems that we were unaware of. Really kind of a good thing. So
yeah. So even if you think you really like a specific area, a specific town, a specific property, if you have the option, see it a few times. And that's kind of the thing is, it depends on your exact situation. Are you here for 2 weeks visiting and trying to buy a property before you move? That's going to just be a lot harder. Is it doable? Sure. It's going to be harder.
It's harder.
You're going to have to basically every single day be out looking for things.
Now, and you're not going to stack appointments like you would with a realtor in the US. You're going to see 1, maybe 2 properties a day, especially if you're looking for like rural properties. Yeah. You may have to park somewhere. You may have to hike to it. There may or may not be a good road. So, and where you find them is kind of all over. So you get into it just takes time. Now,
a certain amount of time.
When you get there, when you start getting close, randomly just talk to people. People here are actually really friendly. They'll be suspicious at first. We went up to a property outside Catameo, and we pulled up, a couple of gringos in a little van up in the mountains, and this guy's just looking at us like side glances, and he's clearly like the neighbor, like of the property we're looking at. And we could either have left at that and just not talked to him and gone on our way and looked at this property without anyone showing it to us. Like we just found it and went and hiked it. It was abandoned. But instead we went over and I'm like, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm looking at this property to buy. Oh, that's great. We might be neighbors one day. Oh, blah, 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 blah. All of a sudden, all this stuff he's telling me about his property, what he's doing, what this is over there, the story behind it, the thing or something. Oh, there's a ton of information. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, I've met one of the neighbors and created what, if we decide to buy that property, a good relationship rather than...
It also helps you glean a lot more about the property, the neighborhood, the area, positive or negative.
Yeah.
Just more information.
They're not selling it. They have no interest in it.
They're going to tell you the
They'll just tell you the truth.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So when it comes to actually finding the property, like physically, like where do you go? We ended up on Facebook Marketplace, which I really didn't anticipate, but we were struggling to find something. We did not know what exact location we wanted to be in. So we had a hard time just driving around because we don't know where to drive around. So I took to Facebook Marketplace because I could do that. Sitting in our rental house, I could refresh the page over and over and over and search. There were a lot of properties for sale. There was very, very little information on any of the listings. And then you might have a phone number. Then you might message them on WhatsApp. They might call you and speak in Spanish so quickly that you are lost. That happened a couple times. Even
when you say, please email me or message me with text, and they don't, they just call you.
It's an issue. But even if you can communicate well with them, they often just want to show you the property, which is great. Except when what we were looking at was 4 hours away. I've got to know a little bit more about the property before I spend a day looking at it.
Just come see it. So what size is it? How much do you want? Like, can we even afford it? Like,
we had a budget. Well, if it's completely outside of this budget, we're not going to go look at it. It's wasting everyone's time.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't have a solution for that. It's just something to be aware of.
It's an Ecuadorian thing. When you look up cars for sale, it'll just have like a picture of the car, sometimes what kind of car it is, and it just says for sale.
People like to do things in person here.
And they're like,
is great. It's just a little bit hard if you are on a timeline and you have a specific budget with a property and you're like, I gotta know a little bit more.
For us, we had to get a property for our investment visa. There is a countdown. It is short. So that it can be. So these are the clues that we figured out in our journey.
There are signs everywhere. We'll put up some pictures.
Signs.
They're just signs.
Are they
everywhere.
helpful? Nah.
Sometimes and sometimes not. And sometimes you think they are and they're not.
There could be a sign up for 30 years on a property. The sign can fall off. The things can fade out.
It may say nothing more than say Vende, and it may not even be a property. It may be for pigs. We don't really know.
You don't
sometimes.
know. It might not even be where the sign is. Sometimes it's where it is. Sometimes, oh yeah, I'm selling this farm that's 6 hours away next to the volcano. Seriously? But,
so there's all differing amounts of information on the signs. That's where you're going to have to just get into boots on the ground, like if there's anyone near the sign, if there's a neighbor, you need to ask them, there's a sign, is it this property, is it another property, and they'll tell you, they'll be upfront, and that goes back to just talking to people.
And that's the thing here is there's I remember when we first got here and there was someone helping us look for a rental house, and she literally just goes up and just starts knocking on doors, and I'm like, what are you doing? You're just walking up to random people's houses and knocking doors? She's like, yeah.
That's how you do it.
You're like, oh, do you know anywhere for rent? People are like, oh, well, blah, 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 thing, something. Oh, this guy over here, go ask him. Okay. And then you just and you just play the game of telephone up and down until someone's like, oh, yeah, I got a property or a thing or house. Or nobody seems to mind being interrupted with what they're doing.
Yeah.
So if you find an area, yeah, you can go to the local town. You can ask around the town, just literally random people around the town, and they'll all give you some bit of information that you can start to put together, some properties. Oh, I'll call this guy, do this. So,
I think really the way that we ended up finding our property, beyond it was listed on Facebook Marketplace, we had actually ended up looking at a different property out in the same area. And that's kind of nice. We like it. And so we're started sort of focusing more on that area. And kind of honing in on that. I think that's really the way you have to do it here. Either find a property, and even if that property isn't for you, the area might be, or take a day, take a week, take however long it takes. Drive around, to see things, stop in towns, talk to people. There are towns we've driven through where we're like,
get a feel.
This is not maybe our town.
Get a feel for the local town. There's been some where just nothing that we could put our finger on, but we're just just keep driving. Just don't stop.
It's just not the right feeling.
And there's other towns where man, everyone's just outside. There's things, there's all their products just out there. There's just clearly no theft here. People are smiling and content. And things were okay, this is a pretty chill place. Just feels better.
So when you're going out looking for properties, driving around, be prepared, basically no matter what, to go on a grand adventure. Sometimes it's not fun. Sometimes it is.
It's adventure time.
It's adventure time. So I think we ended up going to one of the properties far away from where we were renting. And for some reason we didn't take rain boots, which was, in retrospect, really dumb. We knew better. Not sure what we were thinking.
Rain boots here are cheap.
Rain boots are amazing.
They're $8 to $12. If you don't want to bring some or you don't have some, go to the local hardware store when you get here. Buy a pair. Leave them when you leave if you don't want to take them home.
It's worth it because...
And a pair of insoles. They don't come with insoles.
That's true.
Bring your favorite pair of insoles. Makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about you may be hiking all day to look at one property. So having that is really important. It's going to protect your feet.
I mean, if it's
pouring rain,
or it's 10 hectares, you're going to cross streams, you're going to go through jungle, your things, they protect you from, if you step on an ant mound or something.
Yep.
Just wear rain boots. Be comfortable. Don't have some sort of case where you've destroyed your footwear or your feet or just been so uncomfortable that you've needed to be rescued out.
Be prepared for all kinds of crazy things. Have a machete.
So backpack,
machetes are very cheap.
Machete.
As well.
Oh yeah, go spend $3 to $6 on a machete.
Get it sharpened. They don't come sharp.
Carry some water and some snacks. Yep. Keep your phone in the backpack in a Ziploc bag. Super protection against, it fell in the water, it rained, it's something.
There's weather pretty much, I think, across the entire country, but in certain areas, weather changes incredibly quickly. You'll start out the day and it'll be beautiful and sunny. You're like, I don't need a rain jacket. It'll be fun. It's not fun.
Afternoon thunderstorm for an hour.
It's probably going to rain at some point. And if it doesn't hurt anything to have those things. It's going to make the experience a lot better.
$1 poncho stuffed in there. Yeah. A couple other little things. But just your little adventure bag. Pack a little adventure bag.
Yep.
Carry it around.
Yep. We only manage, I mean, I think at most you can do 2 properties a day.
So if you set it up to meet the person, you're supposed to meet at 10. They may be there at 10. They may be there at 9. They may be there at 11:30. They may no show.
Be prepared for all things.
Be prepared for all things, and then they don't show after an hour house. You're like, well, whatever. We're just gonna go walk and see it, which is totally okay here. Yep.
I'm gonna switch to one microphone here and see what happens.
Okay, I'm gonna go back over there.
Oh no, just keep going.
So you may just go hike the property anyway. Trespassing is really not a thing in Ecuador. You just explain we're looking for this property thing. People will help you find it. It's not a big deal.
If you end up where you're not supposed to be, you just say, oh,
sorry.
Lo siento.
Yeah. Lo siento. Silly gringo. It's never been a problem unless there's angry cows or something. So, but also you might end up talking to a neighbor and he tells you about a property on the other side of his farm that's for sale.
Yeah.
It turns out, at least up in the rurally parts where we are, a ton of things are for sale. We start asking, and all of a sudden I can now tell you up and down between us and the little town down the street, without trying hard, I have now found like 6 properties that are for sale. This one's a couple acres. This one's or hectares. This one is 60 and 30 hectares. These 2. There's another one. There's another one. There's another one. I now know about a whole bunch of properties for sale. Neat.
Especially you have to be in that area and know the people long enough to find that out.
Right.
The catch-22 there, but
that's just how it works here.
Yep.
So sometimes if you can gain yourself more time, you know, like if you need a visa, if you had like a placeholder property that you're just going to buy, hold for the 2 years, and then sell again, and in that 2 years, if you have the funds available, then you can go ahead and spend that living where you want to be and finding your final property and a good deal on it. There's something to be said for that.
Mm-hmm. We probably need a car to do this, realistically. I know you can rent cars. We've never rented a car here. I don't know the process. I know you can in larger cities. Beyond that, I'm not sure.
There's one in our local town.
Is there?
Yeah, because of there's some big industry.
Oh, that's right.
I know in Loja there was some.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big cash deposit because there's not really insurance here, so you're going to pay $1,000, $2,000 as a deposit in case of damage. We've never used them, so you could do that. There's you could also hire a taxi for the day, just the whole day, and you're going to pay him some amount of money. I remember we hired a truck, and the price of the small truck, which was like a little box truck, I think he wanted $50 or $60 for the entire day, including gas. And it's like, well, if you can hire a truck for that, a taxi must not be much different. And you just have to explain, like, look, I need you for the whole day. You're going to have to just sit and wait while we look at properties, bring a book, you know, sit on your phone.
Buy him a snack at some point.
Oh my gosh, he'll be so pleased. You buy him a croissant and a bottle of water.
Yeah.
So that is totally a possibility.
Now, things to know when you actually are looking at a property. Things that are really kind of outside of what we expected coming from the U.S. and just things that we sort of take for granted or took for granted is having access to the property, like legal or physical access. A lot of the rural properties here don't have a road.
They just sort of like
just exist. They
stack
up and they.
Or it was one big property and then it was divided amongst children and a family, and then they've gotten either sold or they think yours is the one you're looking at is this one, and the other ones maybe aren't for sale. Like, but how do I get there? Now on the paperwork, there's usually a designation of legal access, like at a spot, which gets you to the property below it. But then you'd have to look that one up to find its legal access. In reality, I don't know that this is super used, only if there was some sort of like contention about it. But that is walking access. You can walk in.
That is not, I want to build a road access. And you could get in the position of buying a property thinking that you have the access and that allows you to build a road, when in reality it wouldn't. And you could end up in that predicament, which we even
Yeah.
though it says there's a road, that does not mean there's really a road.
Ooh.
That was probably our biggest issue in finding a property, was just, ooh, that's not really an actual road that we can drive on. It was once a road. It could be a road.
And then it was a river, and then it was a waterfall, and then it was a cow path, and then it was a, what is it now? It is weeds and rocks.
Yeah, there's some stories there.
Oh my God, we looked at so many properties, and there's just the disqualifiers of, wait a minute, you have to park and walk here because the road just cranks up a hill through undrivable rubble. Where do you park? Next to a pig farm.
Oh, there was that one, yeah.
Hmm.
I think my favorite was when we were driving. I'm like, okay, this is my word. Oh, there's a river. This river completely washed out the entire road.
Oh,
not
yeah.
a little river.
Oh, it looks like a scale model of the Grand Canyon.
There's no hope.
Like, you're going to need
Yep.
a 70-foot bridge with giant concrete like anchors on both sides and an engineer and a. There's no way.
No.
Like,
No. So
they didn't tell us that. There's a lot of those.
So I think that, I know for me it was kind of a lesson in just going with the flow, having a little patience, which we didn't have because we were in a rush. We wanted to find property, and when you spend an entire day to go look at something that is not accessible at all, it's disappointing.
Disqualified before you can even set foot on it.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, we never even set foot on that property. We looked at it from a distance, and that was it.
That was it.
And that was the whole day.
You're like, looks pretty.
No, we're joking. But in that particular instance, that also led us sort of more in the direction of where we've ended up. That was a new area that we hadn't looked at. And we're like, oh, that's not bad. I kind of like that. So you kind of have to just see it with an optimistic viewpoint. Or I think it could get a little discouraging sometimes, but you try to look at it from an adventure standpoint, and you're always going to gain more information every property you look at. You're going to be like, oh, okay, well, from now on, we need to confirm these things. We need to look at these things. Or here's a new area we can look at, or something like that.
But out here, it is just unbelievably gorgeous, and there are just so many gems of properties. And then when you find one, you're like, oh my gosh, this is just storybook, picturesque, like screensaver kind of gorgeous, beautiful. Yep. You just have to find them. And they exist.
And then it's kind of up to you to do your due diligence on certain things like water rights. I know we kind of ran into that in one of the properties, because that's not something that we knew about or was obviously on a listing. It doesn't be on a listing necessarily.
On a second visit, yeah. First visit, everything it was lush. It was beautiful. There was rain. There were streams. We're like, hey, this is lovely. Second visit, water has stopped. It's still misty, but everything is drying out and dying. And we're like, where's all the water? Streams gone. The little ponds are gone. Oh yeah, it's dry most of the year. Oh, there's like a canal. You have to pay for that, and you have to get a permit for that.
And there were like regulations how much you could use, depending on who you were and the size of your property and all of these things. Like, okay,
yeah,
so that's important.
You get out towards Catameo, and there's that kind of problem.
So that's something and that goes back to just talking to people. I think that's when we talked to the neighbor and found out that information. You're just gonna have to talk to people that live there. That's not something that even a real estate agent, if you were using one, is probably gonna know. So you're gonna have to figure that out on your own, and that's gonna mean talking to people, which is, I mean, it's not my strong suit, which is why I have him.
No, we love to research from a distance and like pull maps and things, and I'm going to look up all your history of like transfers and taxes and stuff and permits that you've pulled. Well, that's in the U.S.
That's not here.
No.
So it's just a little bit of a different mindset to get into. And basically, when it comes to you found your perfect property and it's amazing and you love it and it's wonderful, how the heck do you buy it? We didn't know either.
No.
We did not come into this planning on buying another property out here. So
and not being a fluent Spanish speaker, I can tell you it's not a process that I understand. And it's a thing, and you go here, and you have to get this paper to go here, to pay a fee to do this, to take it back to here.
You walk back and forth over the town square like 20 times.
To here. Oh, go get more copies. Go back to this desk, pay this other fee, take that paper over there, take this, take that. Okay, now we got to wait. Now there's a notary. You have to have a translator if you don't speak fluent Spanish. It's a law in Ecuador.
Kind of an awesome thing, honestly.
and I got called on it for when we bought the current property, and the lady was who's the head of the notary office was like, and she's looking at the sellers like evil eye, like you're trying to sell these gringos like some property, maybe sell them one property, but the paperwork says a totally different one or something. But she was really giving him the old evil eye, and she's like, he doesn't speak enough English to understand this contract or enough Spanish. And then finally she looks at me and she's like, because they're trying to convince her that I understand what I'm doing. And she's like, where is the property? Like, oh, I understand that. And I managed to respond, and she's like, oh, well, okay. But that's part of the law in Ecuador of either have a translator, or you have to have an understanding of fluent Spanish, which is kind of cool. So people who don't speak it don't get taken advantage of. But if you don't have one and you get there and they make that designation, the whole thing kind of blows out until you can find a translator.
So that's just something that know ahead of time, so you don't get in that situation. Because there were actually a lot of people here who didn't know that, like locals, because they'd never been in that situation, so they had no idea either. And then we ended up getting I don't know, what did you call the facilitator?
So a facilitator was just somebody who understands the process, was going to go here, it's going to get the engineering like drawings and the official plan, and take this other thing and take it over here, and then pay this fee and this and that and something, and understood the process. You pay them for their services, which it's not a huge amount of money. It's going to take them a couple of days of back and forth to kind of deal with the whole thing.
And honestly, I don't think it's something we could have ever figured out on our own. We could have messed up one piece of that. It's kind of like getting visas here, where it's like, yeah, you can do it yourself, but if you mess up one piece, it's just a giant kerfuffle. So
yeah, so
I think in this case, it's definitely worth it to hire someone to walk you through all of those steps.
Yeah, did much easier, made sure everything was in order and it all went through smooth, and we have official legal title. Now, there's a couple of ways you can buy a property. There is an official legal title to it, which is what you want. There's another one called Articles of Direction, and it is sort of you sort of own it mostly for a while, but not really.
Sort of like almost a long-term lease.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what it is. It's not actually owning the property, though.
Does not work for an investor visa. You don't actually officially own it. Sometimes if it was an originally granted parcel of land to a family way back when, if they've never gone through the process to finalize it into a title, they may still have the Articles of Direction, and then they sort of pass that on, but it's not...
It's not a true title.
Not a true title. Now, they can be converted. The process takes time, takes a bit of money. So it's not a full showstopper, but
you need to know that.
You need to know that would need resolved first.
Mm-hmm.
You may not have the months that it takes to resolve that.
Especially if you're looking at doing an investment visa and you need the property for it. You're not going to have the time, most likely, and you definitely don't want to get in the position of buying a property that is not legally titled, because it won't work for the visa and it'll cause all kinds of problems, and that would be a terrible position to be in, which we could have ended up in really easily not knowing.
We've heard of people that have gotten into that and told, oh no, it's just the same, it's okay. There's some other interesting tidbits to the world, like you can't buy as a foreigner property near the border within so many kilometers. Didn't know that. Friend told me that. But honestly,
I wouldn't want to.
You don't want to be by the Peruvian southern border or by the Colombian northern border, just because that's where you get...
that's your only real crime.
There's trafficking, narco violence things, your home invasions. That sort of creeps in a little bit from the edges. We're more in the middle, and there's...
I mean, we're technically, I suppose, somewhat close to the Peruvian border.
We are, but there's no
jungly bits.
There's no pass. There's just like a mountain range.
Yeah, so it's really like the southernmost border and the northernmost, and those are kind of your only two issues. And the coast has its own issues. But
yeah, my friend down there says he sees it all the time, and the things, the trucks, and the like stuff going on, and he's uneasy about it.
That gets into just picking exactly where you want to be and doing your research and talking to people, talking to locals. Talk to the locals is important.
They'll tell you.
It's really what I mean, really, that's all this comes down to. You need to talk to people in the places where you want to be or you think you want to be.
Yeah, I had a lovely conversation with a guy yesterday who was selling palm fruit out of the back of a truck. He started talking, and all of a sudden he started speaking in broken English. I'm like, okay, it's a little easier. And we were just talking about things and what we liked about this area. He lives around here. Just some random guy selling fruit out of the back of his pickup truck. Happy to talk about the area and the things and the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely recommended.
Yeah. Finding a property here is just a completely different experience. And we just really wanted to kind of give a bit of an overview on our experience and how to do it. It's by no means an exhaustive list, but if we had this list, we would have had rain boots every time.
In the US, you sit at your table with your computer and you can find all the properties. Absolutely not the case. Cannot state that enough. They just do it differently here. And really, if you just get to an area you really like, and you're like, I like that mountain, go and start asking around. Whoever owns that might not even live here. They might live in the next town over. It's somebody's kid. They're like, oh, you want to buy that? Sure, it's been for sale for 22 years.
Yeah.
There's a ton available for sale. It's not even listed. There's so much. Probably most of the properties are for sale if you asked.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, and if you're interested in more of kind of how we found our property and our somewhat ridiculous and crazy journey, I did write about it over on my Substack, so I'll link that, and it kind of gives just a little bit more of like the story behind our journey to find our property.
It's a good story. Good story.
Yeah.
All right. So if you enjoyed this, we talk about Ecuador and we talk about our off-grid farm here and some of the shenanigans that that we do around here. Please subscribe, like us, and you'll get to see more of us. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Yeah.